All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about one of the most critical decisions you can make in tech, your app's architecture. And trust me, this isn't just for the hardcore coders. This is a strategic choice that can literally make or break your entire project.
Think of it like this, right? Your app's architecture is its blueprint. It's the foundation of the entire building you're about to construct. If that foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how amazing your idea is or how talented your team is, the whole thing could eventually just come crashing down.
So you really have to ask yourself, are you building a foundation that can support a skyscraper, something that's built to last for decades and grow? Or are you, maybe without even realizing it, just building a temporary shack? The choice has massive, massive implications.
And the stakes? Well, they couldn't be higher. We're talking about a mobile app market that's projected to be worth over $614 billion by 2030. That's not just a big number, that's the massive stage you're competing on. Getting the architecture right is your ticket to the game.
So, with that in mind, let's meet the three main contenders, the heavyweights, all vying to be the blueprint for your next billion-dollar idea.
First up, we've got MVC, that's Model View Controller. This is the OG, the classic pattern that first taught developers how to get organized. It's all about separating your data, that's the model, from what the user sees, the view, and the bit of logic that connects them, which is the controller. So why is it stuck around for so long? Well, it all comes down to simplicity. MVC is pretty easy to learn, which means your team can get moving incredibly fast. It's just perfect for smaller projects or for whipping up a minimum viable product, an MVP, to test your idea out in the real world fast.
And don't think it's old news. Despite its age, MVC is far from obsolete. I mean, check this out. Recent surveys show that frameworks based on MVC are still used by about 40% of web developers. That's a huge testament to how effective it still is for certain jobs.
Okay, next up is the evolution of that classic, MVVM. That's Model, View, View Model. This is the modern workhorse, and it was designed from the ground up for the kind of dynamic, reactive user interfaces we all expect from apps today.
Now, the secret sauce here is the view model. It's a much better, much more organized go-between for the data and the UI. And what does that get you? Well, it leads to way cleaner separation between the parts, which makes your code super testable and just perfect for reactive programming, where the screen automatically updates the moment the data changes.
And that focus on the UI is exactly why it's so huge in the mobile world. Over 55% of Android developers now say they use MVVM as their go-to architecture. It's basically become the unofficial standard for building solid, modern apps on both Android and iOS.
Our final contender. Well, this one's a little different. Clean architecture isn't just another pattern. It's a whole philosophy. It's an approach for building systems that are incredibly tough, designed to last forever, and, get this, almost completely independent of any specific technology. The benefits here are all about the long game, the big picture. We're talking about the highest possible level of testability and just maximum flexibility. So if you need to swap out your database or even your entire UI framework 5 years down the road, Clean architecture is designed to let you do that without having to rewrite your core business logic. You can see why it's perfect for those massive, enterprise-level systems.
This incredible resilience comes from one central idea, the dependency rule. All dependencies have to point inward. The heart of your application, your actual business rules, knows nothing about the outside world. The UI, the database, the web, they all depend on the core, but the core depends on nothing. That is the secret to its power.
Okay, so we've met our contenders. Now for the main event, the showdown. Let's put these three head-to-head and really see where each one shines and where they fall short.
Let's kick things off with a big one, testability. On one end of the spectrum, you've got MVC, where the logic can sometimes get tangled up, making it harder to test properly. On the complete opposite end, you have clean architecture, which gives you the highest testability you can get. In fact, some studies show that big enterprise projects using it can see a 30% reduction in critical errors. That's huge.
This table really lays out the critical trade-offs, so let's break it down. If you look at initial development time, MVC is the undisputed champ. It's the fastest way to get started. But look over at long-term cost. Over time, that speed can lead to technical debt that gets really expensive. Meanwhile, clean architecture, which is slow to start, actually has the lowest long-term cost. And right there in the middle, that's MVVM. It strikes this fantastic balance, which makes it an incredibly powerful choice for most projects.
So the million-dollar question, how do you pick a winner for your project? Let's turn all this comparison into some real,
actionable advice.
It really just breaks down based on your situation. If you're a startup, speed is king, right? MVC gets your product out the door fast. But for a huge enterprise building a system that needs to last a decade, that upfront investment in clean architecture is basically a strategic necessity. And for all the freelancers and small teams out there, MVVM so often hits that perfect sweet spot between getting started quickly and having room to grow.
But hold on, the story doesn't end with these three. The game is always changing. So what does the future hold? Let's take a quick look at the trends that are already shaping the next generation of architecture.
There are three huge forces at play here. First, AI is starting to actually help out in the design process itself. Second, you have cloud-native patterns and microservices, which are all about breaking giant apps into smaller, more manageable pieces. And finally, we're seeing more and more hybrid architectures. You know, mixing and matching, like using MVVM for your UI, but pairing it with clean architecture for all the important core logic.
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi future we're talking about. A recent Gartner report predicts that by 2026, a staggering 60% of new software projects will use AI to help generate and design their architecture. Think about that. The machine is literally becoming a co-architect. And that leaves us with this really fascinating, kind of mind-bending question to chew on. As these AI tools get more and more powerful, will the architect of tomorrow be a human making big strategic choices, or an AI just analyzing data to find the single best blueprint? It's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining this explainer.